All right, guys, Hairbrain Live number 27. We're here back at home in our hometown, New York City, with one of my favorite hairdressers and one of the coolest dudes in the industry, Simon Miller.
What's going on, everyone?
Yeah. Simon's going to be doing a full haircut for you tonight. He's going to take you through some styling. We're going to have some serious fun. We want to hear all your questions. And he's going to share lots of incredible technique here. We just got back from Stockholm where Simon did some incredible stuff on stage. I love the whole vibe of KMS and what you guys are doing. So let's get right into Alex's haircut.
No, thank you. First of all, thank you guys for coming into our spot. This is the crooked fringe movement. And yeah, man, I mean, we just, like to have a really kind of creative space to come in and do some cool looks. So I got Alex here. She's got amazingly cool curly hair. And I thought I would just do exactly what Gerard was saying, just a haircut from kind of start to finish to show you what we can play with here. So in the back, just starting with some really easy vertical graduation. I don't know about you, Gerard, but I'd love to cut super curly hair with like max tension to just get that like super spring into it.
But you just have to adjust the length.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm cutting it a bit longer than I want it, but knowing it's going to spring up.
There's so many different, some people like to cut it totally freehand dry so they don't have to deal with the spring.
Exactly.
But if you're dealing with it wet, you just compensate and then you get that, something nice about the precision of tension on curly hair.
I just love it.
Makes it crisp.
It is, and it's a nice shape.
Makes it pop.
And that's what, we're going to be doing with Alex too, is like once we style her, then really like detailing dry cutting that curl in to create a nice shape. So, using max tension, vertical grad here, it's gonna push this shape up. I'm gonna try to get your hair as big as possible, Alex.
So when you say vertical grad, I mean, obviously you're talking about the sections being vertical.
Yep.
And why choose that over horizontal or some type of diagonal?
So the interesting thing about this cut is the back is all vertical. So it's gonna give me that nice 45 that's gonna support the top shape. When we move through these side sections, we're starting with a vertical and then transitioning to a horizontal. So we're gonna get stack and support here, and then the sides we're gonna get width. And it's gonna be really, really cool. Hopefully, I could really mess it up, but I think it'll turn out good.
Is it that type of technique that you use often, or is it something that you feel just like really customized this kind of one-off time?
You know what, with the sectioning, this is sectioning that I've fallen in love with, I'd say the last year or so, really kind of gravitated towards. So if I drop this, just so you guys can see, right in the nape, just taking the nape section out to the bottom of each ear, and then these side sections, instead of just doing a parietal wraparound or a halo, it's a nice kind of curvature section dropping down in the crown.
Just get a peek of that.
And I do this a lot. This is actually really cool sectioning for guys too, because it gives a little bit extra thickness kind of in these trouble spots. So especially with bobs, sometimes if you take too shallow of a section here, you can create a hole. So keeping this nice and fat is gonna give a nice, fill in right there.
So we got a lot of our community members joining. I saw Frank Mussolino on there and Brandon De Silva. I see somebody from Portugal.
What's up, guys?
Katie Magalejas, hello from Portugal. They must be pretty late in Portugal, right? I guess, but what else do you do on Monday night in Portugal besides watch Simon Miller cut hair?
That's right, for sure.
Awesome. So this sectioning, when you were sectioning it, do you think a lot about the head shape as to how high or how low?
Yeah, the way I base all of my sectioning is just placing my comb on and really just finding the curvature of her occipital, looking at how that parietal ridge is kind of bending down, and then also changing the sections to kind of affect those. So do I want to show off her occipital? Then I'm taking sections that show that off. If I want to hide it or accentuate it, then I'm kind of cheating it that way too.
It's really all about understanding the head shape when you're sectioning. Do you sometimes just like come up with an abstract sectioning pattern
and just have fun?
And just have fun.
No, I know. I'll do that. I'll say, what's the craziest sectioning I can do, and then try to do a haircut off that.
All right. So we finished with the first panel of vertical graduation.
And so this is where it gets interesting. So my idea is starting right in her central vertical. I'm going to start with a vertical section to create that. Now, as I move forward, I'm slightly changing my elevation each time. So the idea is I'm going from totally vertical to totally horizontal by the last time I'm in this. So what you get then is a nice blend from that round to a nice heavy squared at the jaw. And that's something I've been playing with. I think it's really tricky to go from vertical all the way to horizontal. So This is the.
You just got to really, you're distributing the weight, right? From
That's
kind
it.
of one angle to another. So a lot of people dropping in here saying they're so happy that tonight's a little bit later so they can catch it live.
Oh, cool, right
I think
on.
that was Tabitha. Great that we could do this, you know. Simon's a night owl, so he said,
That's
you know,
it.
come over at midnight and we'll start filming.
I think I'm still on Sweden time too.
Yeah, we all are. We all just
Right.
got back from Sweden. We were over there with Goldwell Global Zoom and Simon and the KMS team, who happen to be one of my favorite teams in the industry.
Thank you,
because,
man.
well, you guys just do real hair and you're just like real people. You know, I feel like when you're up there educating, it's not like any type of a script or anything like that. And you just kind of share your passion and do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean that's at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer in we're all artists, we're all the same kind, and I think it's getting off the platform and getting down with everyone and just knowing, here's the deal: people can charge more because of where they're at in the country. Doesn't mean you're worse or better, and so and we're firm believers of that. I love creating a community.
Keeping it real. And I hopefully you guys can see in the background here, we're at Simon's loft called the Crooked Fringe.
Crooked Fringe movement. Yeah.
This is pretty cool. If you guys can see those lights, those colored lights, that's Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
Right across the street. So this is an incredible studio, and I think we're going to be back here more often.
I hope you guys do. I got to tell you, when no one's shooting in here and we have this place empty, I do the big scene with getting on my skateboard and ride around on the floor.
I thought you were going to say like Tom Cruise.
Well, I do that too.
Underwear,
No, that's
these beautiful wood floors.
after we're done with this video drive, we're gonna have some beers. We're both gonna see
Yeah.
who can slide the furthest.
Yeah, I didn't wear any underwear.
Okay,
I have a long shirt. Yeah. All right, so back to the haircut. This is looking beautiful already. I love the way it's looking, kind of almost one length in a way.
Exactly.
But it's got some like lean.
I mean, to me, I think that's the coolest thing. How do we get a one length look, but it has that movement and shape of something that isn't one length?
The invisible one length.
That's what it is.
Right.
Absolutely.
People always talk about invisible layers and how cool that is. We're doing the invisible.
One length. This is great sectioning too. For I think a lot of clients they want the lob. They want that long bob and. This is really nice sectioning for that because it's keeping it heavy and one length looking, but it allows for some movement around the collarbone and around the shoulders. You can see here switching to that horizontal up here, it's starting to flatten out.
So you just totally pivoted through. You did that vertical panel in the bottom. Then you overlapped. You created a new guideline.
Exactly.
And just visually let it drop.
Yeah, the
in.
tricky thing about this is my elevation really depends on how her texture of her hair, the overall look. As you can see, like I was using some blunt cutting before, now over directing and just point cutting and just opening up.
Any tips on point cutting? Obviously it's something that's become a staple in people's kind of daily hair cutting, but I still think people struggle with controlling it.
I do too, and I think the biggest thing is a lot of times people will take hair like this and they point cut so little, they might as well be blunt cutting.
Right.
So when I point cut, depending on the texture of the hair, I like to see that in the hair.
What I heard once that's always stuck with me with point cutting like this is try to make it look like shark's teeth.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
the old shark tooth.
The old shark tooth.
But it works.
Old shark tooth.
Oh, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah. You probably used to wear one of those, huh? Yeah, bro. So tell us, you're a California dude. I mean, I remember you as Cali bred and fed.
Yeah, that's right.
And you moved to New York a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
what's New York like?
I love it. First of all, with the amount of travel I've been doing lately, it's a lot quicker to get places living on the East Coast. But the hustle here is real, man. It's like nonstop. And
I was born in the hustle.
I can't imagine.
You're Cali bred and fed, and I'm Brooklyn bred and fed.
I know.
So
That's awesome.
we're covering the coast here.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and so far it's just like the nonstop creativity. It's rad.
Awesome, guys. So again, if you have questions out there, we're trying to man them as best we can on the phone here. I'm not checking my text messages. I'm looking for your questions for Simon. And let's get back into the haircut. So give us some technical detail.
Yeah, again, so just slightly over directing I think my favorite tip with doing this technique is I'm using an over direct to previous. So we're not coming all the way to our stationary guide. That would give me such a big A line. I'm not into that right now. So over direct to previous is gonna slightly round this, but also give me a bit more length. So you can see it slightly gets longer, but then again, I have a really soft round shape in there already. Alex, you're gonna love this.
So our good buddy Frank Mussolino says, "Go Rangers!"
Right.
1 second.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Make it a better location.
Yeah, when that plays after the Rangers play, it's like crazy show on the
You ever
street.
hear the "Let's go
Oh yeah,
Rangers"?
all the time.
It's my brother-in-law, Frank.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes, we hear that. You know what? The best show or the best concert to get out of there was the Grateful Dead. You should have seen the streets.
Yeah.
It was a
Did
sea
you
of
open up all your
tie-dye.
windows?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just to let the aura
Yeah,
flow into the room.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome. So what's next on your agenda? You just got back from Stockholm, and you said you went to London.
Yeah,
directly from there?
so this was my last trip. I started in.
See, I'm
Yep.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
you, but
no.
Let me just try to get your sectioning that you're taking there.
Yeah, so again, started with the vertical, and then as we come around, just flattening out. That will be my last diagonal forward, and then the next one is horizontal.
Got it.
And it's just really just taking your time and shifting that. It really will change the way the hair lives.
Great.
And then again, over directing back to that previous and just point cutting in.
It's really like a study in weight distribution.
That's what it
because
is.
You're starting out kind of flatter to get that profile nice and lean, and then by pivoting around, you're building that weight to get the bulb line in there.
Yeah, you know,
Which is it's really smart.
me and my good friend Lori Panarello would call this honest haircutting, because you're changing your technique as you work and you're paying attention. It's about being really present in the work while you're creating it.
I love that. I have a little hashtag I was using for a while called honest hair. Because I think, and I think
love
people
that.
misunderstood it. They thought I was saying, oh, don't use Photoshop or this. I really don't care about Photoshop. I just mean like making the hair, the texture and the shape that it is, like for real.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Dude,
And
this
not
is-
trying to change it into something that it's not.
Everyone always wants to know, like, what's the new trend? What's the trend? The trend is everyone. Like, whatever your hair wants to do, that's the trend.
Right.
It's embracing that natural texture and then just going to town with it.
I mean, you guys are really doing that with KMS, with
Absolutely.
the product formulations and the way you're approaching it. And I love the whole kind of, like your hands are your best tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think was a great concept. I love that. Love hearing that.
Well, I think it puts the professionalism back, because no one can do what we can do with our hands.
Right. Right.
So here's that under shape. We've completed the nape, moving in through the sides, and now we're gonna drop the top down and start to connect this. So as I drop this down, just gonna go back into, so here's a good tip. I always struggle with getting a really nice center part, so now I just stand right in front of them, put my comb flat, push that forward, and you're able to get a nice clean one quick.
Let me see that one more time.
Yeah. So, a lot of times people try to come around and get the section from behind them.
Uh-huh.
So I just
Cut it
walk
from
up.
this angle.
You know what's kind of interesting, Simon?
Just
It's
slow,
like there's
please.
old taboos, and sometimes they even come up where people say, "Oh, you should never stand in front of your client." And honestly, I think that's where a lot of that still comes
It
from.
is, right?
Because I mean, even when I went to beauty school 25 years ago,
Never stand in front.
In the textbook, it would be like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion,
Yeah.
don't stand in front of your client.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those tips were good, but
Some of them are
don't
good.
stand in front of your client. I don't really think was a good tip.
No,
I think it's very limiting.
You don't want to bring up Trump in a salon. I understand that, but feel free. I had to.
Hey, man.
But feel free to I don't know. I think I always go back to the Vilas Sassoon documentary. When you watch him cut, he was walking around the head and he was turning them and he was watching how that shape came into play. And I like that aspect. So now that we're in the top, this is where I'm going to bring a little bit of disconnect.
Well, Val used to say it was like you're like a boxer
That's
when you
it.
cut hair. And if you'd watch him, he would kind of dance around like this. I had the privilege of never seeing him cut hair live, but I've seen some pretty rare footage that a lot of people haven't seen of him actually really cutting hair.
He moves.
And he was like this all the time, like on
And
his toes.
he'll cut a line, address it, cut it again, and it's
It
like
was
this.
super honest. All right, let's see what everybody's out there. Tabitha Rossi wants to know what kind of shears you're using.
Okay, so these are Moto shears. These are actually scissors that I designed here. So if you see, we took out the thumb hole so that when we cut, you're really not locked in these at all. And one of the nice techniques is you can come right forward with this. And then the great thing is it's kind of like a swivel thumb without the swivel.
Right.
Right? So you can cut down. I mean, basically the freedom of these are really nice.
Can you show us a minute? Just like
Yeah. And so this part right here is actually adjustable, so you can make it larger or smaller depending on your thumb shape.
So you design these yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Is there something that you sell? Or
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
just
yeah.
your-
If you go to motoshears.com, you can pick them up.
I'm trying to get a better angle.
They're called the chopper because you know with
Chopper.
it, right? With a motorcycle, you cut all the crap off you don't need. The chopper.
Captain America style.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Joe Mendez says, yes, 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 I'm loving this method. I think we're long lost cutting bros. I do a lot of
that's
point
rad.
cutting. It's refreshing to see. I'm in love with this cut. Jojo from Central Cali.
Very
Cali
cool.
Bred and fed. All right, I'm trying to refresh here to find more questions. It's always the challenge with technology, trying to keep up. But guys, keep your questions coming in. We'll definitely try to get to them.
While we're getting some
If you guys
questions
see any,
too.
let us know.
So what we're doing now is high point of the head. We're taking pivoting sections. And I love what you said. This is that invisible one length. This is how we're even going to enhance that more. So holding out at a horizontal 90 and really elevating this out. You can see there's my underneath cut. And all I'm doing is point cutting that in. So we're basically creating a hole in the hair. So that long top layer now is going to sit over all that graduation and really help get some really cool pieces and kind of spring those out.
Jesse Danger Knight wants to know if you use any type of cutting lotion in the hair.
Yeah, I went ahead and put in some KMS curl up leave-in conditioner that I actually, that's what I'm going to be styling
that's
with her.
protective lotion.
The cool thing, so what I did, Jesse, was I went through and actually put in leave-in in my water. I learned that trick from a friend of mine, and it kind of dilutes it a little bit, but then as you use it, it really, hydrates the hair and gives me that shape that I'm looking for. But I always cut with product in the hair.
And why is that? Why do you feel like you always want to cut with product?
So here's my thing is I like to see what the hair's doing as it's drying. But another thing, if you think of just like water on the pH scale is very alkaline, so it's going to open that cuticle and add frizz.
Oh, you're
so
a professor.
I know these
Yeah.
things. I just make them up. But
Sounds good.
If
Alkaline,
you're using,
acid.
but it is if you're using like a leave-in or a product, it's helping smooth that. So I'm going to get not so much frizz, especially with these curly shapes.
Nice comment from Becca Case. I'm really digging this. It's got the structure, but it's also freestyle that you're watching and feeling
Sorry,
the hair
guys. Let me
to
just
see
find
what's
a spot.
needed next. And I think that's the message I get when I watch you cut and I watch the KMS team, that there's a lot of craft and discipline, but you still got that freedom where it doesn't end up looking like an erector set, like just pure technique. It's got a lot of vibe to it.
Here's a great line that we say: we like to take our fun seriously.
Yes.
Right? So you're still thinking about that, and everyone wants advanced hair cutting. They want advanced hair cutting, and I think you'll totally agree. All advanced hair cutting is fundamentals done perfectly.
Yeah.
It's
Or
graduation.
combining 2 or 3 fundamentals
And
in a customized way.
And discipline and consistency, and that's what makes an advanced
Let's just
haircut.
catch up real quick on the haircut.
Yeah, me and him, we're just chatting away here. But yeah, so what happened here? in this
Again,
last
so
battle?
continuing these pivoting sections and then elevating that out, this is the bit I'm getting rid of. So as you can see, we're gonna be shorter underneath, sorry Alex.
That's okay.
And then as this collapses on top then, it's gonna give us, again, that appearance of that one length, but with a lot of movement. And after she's dry, we'll be able to kind of go in and hit any of those long bits.
Can you just take us through that last section?
Yep. Yeah, this is my favorite one right
Yep,
through the front.
It was really good.
So just taking pivot off the high point. We're gonna elevate that. I'm gonna switch around here, Kevin.
Sure.
Straight out,
Wait 1 second. I
horizontal 90.
Just let me get this good.
And then really elevate. So I'm turning my hand out like that and then just intensifying this angle. So if you think right now, my longest bit is right on the top of her head. So that's gonna sit over that. And I instantly get some really nice face framing. Not a fringe, but really nice soft around the face.
So we did have a couple questions about like choosing a center parting over the natural parting.
Yep.
Do you have any input on why you chose it center parting?
Absolutely, and I think this is like always open to discussion, right? I like going with a central when I let her fall like this. So if you think about this, the whole top was done in pivoting sections working around. there's not really any wrong way to part that.
Right.
If I was holding a square line and cutting square with the center, then it might look a little weird if she switches her part. But I think that round technique is basically any way this sits, it's gonna look cool. And I think it's cool if you cut a center and she wears it and it's a little bit longer on her. It just gives it something different.
And especially if you're working with texturizing and you're not just having solid amounts of
That's it.
of one length hair. I mean, generally, if you're cutting one length, a really heavy graduation, so important to find that natural fall. But with all this elevation that's happening internally, you've got a lot more movement.
We want more. And then to add to the movement, I'm just gonna start going through taking triangle sections. So I take a quick horizontal, do a triangle section down, and then I'm just working at the back of my shear and cutting in, opening up some of that texture. And again, those are gonna give me those happy little like pop out. Did I sound like Bob Ross right there?
Yeah, let's tease that
happy
hair
little
out.
trees.
You ever see when Josh XO did his Bob Ross
Yeah, I
video,
did.
and he was basically making fun of me, like with the razor.
What?
He quotes
Little
me.
bit of genius.
I learned this razor technique from my friend Gerard, and you're safe, and then he like cuts his finger
Oh,
off.
yeah.
Good old Josh. You guys have some history, right?
Yeah, you know what? We actually went to the same beauty school.
Yeah.
Randomly enough at different times. Yeah, it's random.
It's a small world.
And well, I don't know. I think his beard is a bit more luscious than mine. But
I don't know, is that possible? So again, lots of love coming in, guys. Thank you. We appreciate all the positive comments about, Hairbrain doing these classes. I mean, the truth is, I do it so that I can learn. I'm the luckiest guy in the world to get to hang out with all these cool hairdressers. Just this week alone, I've hung out with Jay Mahmood, Aubrey Lutz, Simon Miller. So who's luckier than me? And I'm glad that we get to share it with you.
well, I feel the same way, man. And it's true. If you want to get better at haircutting, teach. Like when you explain why you're doing something, you learn, and it locks it in. And I think it's.
Does it ever
incredible.
happen to you where like you're teaching and the answer comes out and you're like, where did that even come from?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how did I sometimes even on stage in front of a lot of people, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, how did I even figure out how to explain that?
It's incredible,
It's kind
isn't
of
it?
magic, the
Well,
magic of teaching.
But it's because you get out of your own way. It's the same reason we have you put down brushes and use your hands to dry. It's like, stop forcing it and it just comes out.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more
Yes.
about this technique
Yeah.
you're using, this kind of twisting and cutting.
As you're cutting, you
Yeah.
seem to be releasing as well. Is that?
So here's my trick. So we'll do that quick section.
So it's like a little triangle section.
Little triangle
Little
section.
arrowhead.
Yep. And then I find if I keep rocking like that, I kind of brick lay it as I come up. She's really thick on the sides. That's why I'm going through here. So again, just working that back. Don't cut all the way through. She'll be really upset.
Good advice.
But then I like to come through, get all that hair out as I work. If you try to do this whole thing and then comb it out, it's like a rat's nest in
Yeah,
there.
and you can't really see what you're doing. You
can't see what you're
how much
doing.
weight came out.
This is my new favorite YS comb, by the way.
People were asking about the comb,
Dude.
so can you tell us? That's the
For
332.
curly cutting is it's that extra wide with the tight. So I come through and take all my sections, with the tight teeth, and then use the big one. Yeah, it's I'm
That's
addicted
the
to it.
YS Park 332, and that's carbon. Do you like a more rigid comb?
I just
back and
picked this
forth.
up,
Yeah.
and I'm in love with it.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm
And
absolutely.
if you're interested, you can get that at
I
www.hairbrand.com.
knew it was coming.
Hey.
Hey, so you got to pay the bill somehow. It's not all fun and games. All right, so where are you now? You
So-
just did some twist cutting.
Yeah,
Do you
so-
call it twist cutting? What do you call what you were
Yeah,
doing?
let's call it twist cutting. Call
Sounds
it
good.
the twist and shout cut. So now that we're here, this is as much as I want to do on her wet hair. So I'm going to go through and use a little of our perfecting lotion from KMS, and again, just to add some nice kind of definition to her hair. I like to go a bit heavy with this to really give me some support and just really emulsify it in my hands before I start building this into her hair.
So in Stockholm, we got a little sneak peek of the evolution of KMS. Some exciting things coming down the line in 2017.
You know what? It's where we're going is, KMS has always been global, and now we're having fun showing that off. So we got a team from around the world, and we're just upping it a little bit, pushing the techniques and pushing the boundaries. And again, it's all about listening to the community of stylists and just making them proud while we're out there.
So literally, we're going to see KMS in new packaging and
Very soon.
kind of a slightly different look to it, but
Yeah.
still the same core.
Still the same core. We got some really killer new products coming
How long
out.
have you worked with KMS?
It's on 6 years now.
Right on.
But you know, since that, my job has just gotten better and better and better, and it's at an amazing spot. So, so for this, I'm going in and I'm using more of a traditional diffuser for this, and there's a reason. I love the sock diffusers for keeping the hair in its natural state. This I'm going to actually use to push that hair a little bit. So I like using this because it's kind of a combo between new school and like 80s style.
So it's like the basket with fingers kind of accentuates the curl more.
Yeah, exactly.
The sock is just more like a lived-in natural.
Yeah, this will give me just a tad more volume.
I feel the same way. So any tips on diffusing? So obviously choosing the right diffuser based on the kind of curl that you want.
Yeah, exactly. If I didn't want to push it, so as you can see, I can really accentuate that line that I cut in her by pushing in there. If I wanted it to keep it in its natural state, I'd go for a sock.
Just keep the sock and I mean sometimes you can even drag out the curl a little bit with the sock. You can get it in and pull it out. I feel the same way. I use the basket when I want to like tighten, accentuate the curl, and I use the sock when I want to just kind of make it a little bit more ragged. So apparently it's Thanksgiving in Canada. Is that?
Was it yesterday or today?
Charlene Maine she's in Canada, and Thanksgiving means she has the night off so she can watch this.
That's so here everyone watches football. She's watching hair.
Yeah.
I love it.
Are you a sports guy?
Am I still a guy if I say not really?
No, I don't watch any sports whatsoever. None.
Hey, I can watch it if it involves beer and laughing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of skating again.
You know what happens to me ever since I was a kid? I start to watch any type of sports, and immediately my mind wanders.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a very focused person. I can focus on hair. I can focus on technology. But as soon as I start watching sports, within 30 seconds,
you're over it.
I don't even know like what's going on.
Are you like me? I have the TV on, an iPad, and my phone out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. So again, any tips? I noticed now you changed the position of the diffuser.
Yeah. So again, it depends on each person. But now that I'm pumping up here, now I just go in with my fingers and diffuse down, and that's going to keep her from getting too frizzy. I like a little bit of that frizz. I don't want a perfect curl. Otherwise, I would just curling iron her whole head. So I like
honest hair again.
Again,
let the hair be what it really is.
You know, it's such an overused term to say lived-in hair, but it is. It's lived-in. It's just how she's going to actually wear it. I think if you ask your client how they liked their last haircut, and they said it was great when I got home and washed it, you did them a disservice. They should feel like it's awesome when they walk out, and that means it has to be exactly how they wear it.
So I'm just going back on the feed, guys, looking for your questions. Please keep them coming in. We got that one. Michael Taylor says the trend is individuality, which we were just talking about before. Awesome.
That's exactly what it is. And then even to further that individuality, now I'm going through, grabbing her curls, and this is where you really can have some fun sculpting that hair. Again, I'm not sliding my shears, I'm slightly opening and closing them.
What's the difference? Like if you were to slide your shear, what would happen to
So here's my thing, when you slide, you're tapering that hair. So if I'm sliding, I'm tapering that section. If I slightly open and close, I'm giving it pieces each time I do that. So again, it adds to more of this. I think for curls, it's really nice. If your scissors aren't really sharp and you try to slide on a curl, it's like running your scissor over a ribbon, right? It springs back and it really damages.
It can change the pattern.
It totally changes it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you do much razor cutting, or are you really just
I do
like
a lot of
scissor
razor
guy?
cutting.
Okay.
You
So
know,
how do you choose? You know.
Again, it just kind of depends on what I like for this shape. Is I really like the idea of like mega structure with the shear, and then also the shear on top. But this is a really nice. If they don't have quite as much hair as Alex does, I like using a razor underneath for the structure, and then coming up with my shears on top, and partnering those two together.
Yeah. So there was also a question about your blow dryer. We always get tons of tool questions. Somebody said the blow dryer looks really cool. What is it?
Yeah, so this is a Veris blow dryer, and I was actually, I feel like I'm on QVC. I was actually on the team that helped design that. So it's really nice. We have a super long cord with it, and some really cool features that are basically from hairdressers for hairdressers.
I mean, the truth is, when we do these, people always ask about the tools. I don't think there's enough information out there.
No.
So when people see stuff, they're really, really interested. I mean, there's questions about the comb. We probably have 25 questions about your scissor.
Yeah.
People want to see it again and hear about it a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing is what happens if we don't talk about tools enough is you go to a beauty show and you just buy whatever's on sale.
And a lot of times it's junk.
And it's junk. So again, like using scissors, even if you're not using these scissors, which you should be using, but if you're not, I always recommend keeping your thumb outside of the hole as much as possible, and that way you're never locked in. If my thumb is locked into a hole and I'm trying to cut a line, you can see how awkward that is. But if I'm outside of that hole, I can cut that line and my wrist is much more comfortable. So, you know, think about your body too. I think body positioning and the proper use of tools is something that we could talk about over and over and over.
So we had a question from Deanna Lynn that I think is a pretty common thing with curly hair. She says she's got mostly curly hair in the back.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's a lot straighter in the front. Like
That's Alex hair too.
Yeah. What kind of tips? What do you think about when you're working?
Well,
with,
and if
with
you
that?
notice that, so that's a great. So in the back, I use that max tension to spring that curl up. Up top, where she is a bit straighter, that's where I'm going through and doing these like detail cuts. So I'm giving the appearance of curl. You ever have a client say, "Can you cut my hair so it curls?" Like you can't, but this is a nice way to cut texture so that it kind of will embrace the curl a little bit easier.
So trying to use that underneath is like to propel the hair.
Yeah,
give
it
it more life.
all starts supporting itself.
I mean, it's pretty common for people's hair to be a little straighter around the front because they also
Absolutely.
pull on it there the most, tuck it back behind their ears, so they're kind of straightening it out over time.
Environmental damage, that you know, they're tugging it. A lot of times that's where they put the highlights, and now we have chemical. I mean, there's a million
Exactly.
reasons.
All right, so now you're going in and doing a little bit, would you call it like polishing or finishing?
So I'm using, what are we at, a quarter here? And I just like to give it a couple twists around in certain spots. Even just that, keeping this natural with just a little bit of movement
Seems
there.
like you're picking up like the weakest hairs almost.
That's all it is. And so like if we're looking at this side, what screams to me is, first of all, maybe we can control this a bit. So even just getting that iron and just giving half a twist. Now again, her hair's not totally dry. All I'm looking for is just a little bit of support there. Because I don't want to curl. I just want a nice, just a bit more polish in certain spots.
Simon, are you spending any time in the salon these days?
Yeah, so I am, when I'm home and I have some time, I'm hanging out at Prema Salon down in Lower East Side.
Right on.
So Francesco, yeah.
I didn't know that. I got to come down there.
Yeah,
and hang out
yeah.
with you guys.
So I go to Australia a lot for work, and
Oh
so
man, I went to Australia the first time in June. I loved it. We got to get down there together.
I can't do it.
Such a great place.
We wouldn't leave though. That's the problem. It's so fun there. I love it. Yeah,
It's like a gigantic California. I mean,
That's
even though
what- it is.
California's
No, it
already
totally
gigantic,
is. It
It's got
totally
the
is.
same kind of vibe. The people are so friendly. And the one thing I really love about Australia is like that hairdressing community is really kind of connected. It seems like there's like a few families
Yeah.
that kind of started a lot of the quality hairdressing, and then everybody branched out from there.
It's absolutely
And it's like
right.
small enough that they're all, you know, you go to a show there and people actually all know each other, and I really dig it down there.
No, me too. It's just a good vibe, you know. So just to kind of almost getting to the end here, this is my biggest trick for everything is cold air. I finish
Shut it down.
every style with cold air.
Shut it down.
Yeah, and even with that diffuser, just close that cuticle,
Yeah.
add that shine, and just lighten it up a little bit. This is where you get that fine little bit of shape into the hair.
Great tip.
Yeah, it's just all, and it feels nice after to just have your hair kind of a little bit of cold air on your scalp.
So if people out there want to do some training with you, education, hands-on, what do you got coming up in the next few months? What are the opportunities?
So every now and then I'm hanging out at the Gold Line KMS Academy down in meatpacking.
So you're doing classes down there a few
Yep.
times a year?
A few times a year. For the rest of the year is a lot of international stuff. So I'm getting better about like posting. So what is the new Instagram live feed? Is it Instagram Live or
It's basically Snapchat.
on Instagram?
But on Instagram.
I'm
And
getting better at it.
What's great about that is you already have all your followers that you've been building up for years on Instagram.
Well, that's what I tried to switch to Snapchat, and I'm like, okay, I have 4 friends, and
I'd like to thank Instagram for teaching me how to use Snapchat.
yeah, it's true.
That's my famous
It's
line.
true.
Because I never really, even at Hairbrains, we do Snapchat, but we've never had a ton of success with it. Where Instagram Live right away was like,
I think it was like easy. Yeah.
easy. I guess it's Snapchat for adults.
Yeah. So that's a really cool shape in there.
Let
And
me
you-
just try to get it good.
yeah, and you can see we have that nice support, and then just those little bits that hang. I just love them. Something really easy for Alex to be able to style.
It's like kind of creating those technical irregularities in the levels gives that hair so much more chance to express itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is it's almost like a series of cutting holes in the hair with this haircut.
Yeah.
And allowing that hair to collapse in certain spots, which allows it to really support other spots.
So one of the questions that always comes in for, there's a few questions. So number one, what advice do you have for young hairdressers just starting out, that want to get their career on track? What's your words of wisdom there?
Learn.
Learn.
I think you can never, there is no stopping of learning and constantly get better. But also surround yourself with people that are better. If you're the best stylist in the room, you're in the wrong room. Always be surrounded by people that are better than you and learn. Like if you're at the salon and you have, you're between clients, you can sit in the back and look at People magazine, or you can go up front and hold bobby pins and hairspray for someone. And just watching them work, I think is you learn that way,
Yeah, and I think that's great advice. The other thing that always comes up is I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Simon. I'm so dazzled by this beautiful shape that I forgot the second question, but it'll come back to me. Tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah, again, so I love doing a really geometrical hairline. I think for Alex, that's not going to suit her hair best. So after we just naturally let her curl happen, now I'm just going through point cutting it and just detailing it out about. Here's the thing, I don't like to spend too much time in the back, as she's never going to see this. So when we cut here, that's for design as an artist. I like to spend a lot of time up front because that's what she's seeing, and that's what really matters. So don't spend 5 minutes on her fringe and 45 in the back. I would suggest you kind of switch it a little bit.
That's another question that comes up. Like, so you've done this in kind of real time, like as if it was like an appointment in the salon.
Yeah.
So you're about a 45-minute haircutter usually?
I always book an hour.
Yeah.
Because I like to show them how to do their hair. I think that's the biggest thing. And
Yeah.
Taking time I don't like feeling rushed.
Yeah.
But also, here's the thing, is I'll charge for an hour.
Sure.
So I don't give them $45 price and take an hour. I
It's
charge
one of the
them.
biggest challenges in our industry. People are undercharging.
Yeah.
And then they have to rush, and then their work's not as good, and then they can never charge more because they never get better.
That's
It's
a scary place to be.
It is a scary. But I understand it because if you feel like I can only, and there's nothing wrong with getting $40 for a haircut.
No, absolutely
But it's
not.
hard to make a great living, making $40 every 45 minutes. And then it's hard to raise your price because you never get better.
That's it. I think there's a lot of $500 haircuts out there going for 40.
That's very true as
You
well.
know?
That's very true.
Just to switch back to the haircut,
Yeah.
were you just picking up random pieces?
Yeah, and it's not red. So like, if I'm looking here, I'm just seeing this little curl. So what I like to do is just say, well, if I tug on it, what's it's gonna do? I wanna take that away, and taking that away will now open her neck up a little bit. So grabbing that and then going back to my technique, just slightly opening and closing. Look at, now that that's gone, it just opens that little corner up. I think it just softens that. And just allowing that shape to kind of happen.
Courtney Harris, who's taken classes with you before, says thank you so much for this, and she's taken classes with you before, loves your energy.
Awesome. What's going on, man?
Just Steve Kim just joined us. What's up? Get out that camera and get some photos. What's up, Steve?
This is what happens at the Crooked Fringe.
Wrong address.
We just hang out.
Even the wrong address?
No, the bus took me to the wrong.
Oh, you're talking buzz? Nobody in New York City thinks of buzz.
That was
You
the
must be
point.
from California.
That's my first problem.
That's it.
New York.
Yeah, so again, just going through, taking some of these and just having some
I
fun.
remember my question.
You do?
Yeah, so when you're working like this, how do you know when you're done?
Yeah.
Like obviously if you're doing a one-length bob and you reach all your sections.
It's like done.
You're done. But if you're doing this and it's so organic, how do you know when you're done?
This is when you are going from cutting for shape into cutting for you, you're done. And what I mean by that is like her shape is, after that one, there. I love this line, I love this. If I was to continue this, it's cutting for me, which is dishonest cutting, right? We've been playing with that this whole time. So honest cutting is just looking at it and allowing it to be done. I think it's the hardest thing, but there's nothing like the feeling of going too far and knowing like, shit, I took too much off.
Yeah,
You know?
I love this one line that Michael Gordon uses, and I've heard him say it a few times. It's kind of like better to be like 5 minutes underdone than 10 minutes
I
overdone.
think that.
You know, in fashion and hair.
I see a lot of hairdressers that'll get a 45-minute appointment done in 20
Yeah.
and then fake cut for 20 minutes.
Right.
But be done. Talk about product. Show them how to do it.
Yeah.
Give them like, don't fake it, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah, I think this is looking cool, man.
Beautiful, beautiful texture, great shape, great little dialogue going on here. Real
And
deal.
I love it. So a lot of structure with this. We all heard that old saying that a difference between a good and bad haircut is 2 weeks, right? So if it grows out in 2 weeks, it was not a strong cut. And cutting with the shape of her head and or shape of her scalp in mind, this is gonna grow out really nice. So as this grows, this will drop. I was thinking this, we're one of the only art forms that lives in the 4th dimension. Now I'm gonna go even further, which is time, right? As soon as we cut hair, it's growing.
So the acid's kicking in.
It's now I'm having a flashback.
Okay.
But it is. It's growing instantly. So we have to think. What is this shape going to do as it grows? That's going to support this. So this whole weight line is going to extend as it grows. It's going to
So
be
that
really
4th dimension is the hair growing?
Yeah. Think about it.
That's- I
4th
like
dimension
that.
is time.
Yeah, the 4th dimension is time. Interesting.
It's
Love it, brother.
starting to kick in.
Love it.
All right, man. So what do you guys think? I hope you like it. Cool curls.
Yeah, we love it. We had a lot of great support coming in from people, and it was really wonderful and great to spend time with Simon. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, I know. It
And
worked out.
here's a big announcement. Simon Miller's going to be joining us for teaching at Long Beach this
Oh,
year.
that's good.
Yeah, so Long Beach ISSC. I finally get this guy on stage. We're going to work together. We're going to have a whole bunch of fun segments. And one of the segments, I want to have some really cool American hairdressers.
I know,
And I
I
think
love
he's
this.
one of the coolest ones out there.
Thank you,
And I
brother.
hope I'm pretty cool too. So we're going to work together on stage and represent American hairdressing.
I think it's going to be great. Check out motorshears.com. Look for Simon Miller Hair on Instagram, Facebook, all the above. See you in Long Beach and all
Peace.
over. Yeah? See you.